Hello everybody, my name is Elena. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing my January wrap-up. Now, I'm doing this before January is over because I know I'm not gonna finish a book anymore in January because it's January 29th, okay? If you didn't see the video, in January I did a TBR where I chose a bunch of books to read from my physical TBR as of 2023 by using a card game that I made myself to pick those books. So if you haven't seen that, you should check it out if you want to, if you're interested in it. However, that's the main reason why I'm doing this wrap-up. I usually don't do wrap-ups or TBR videos. However, that is the theme for this year. I'm going to be doing one hopefully every month, if it all goes according to plan. So this is the January wrap-up. I read a total of 11 books in January, which is really good. I'm patting myself on the back. That was really good. I was in a really big reading mood. Like, my reading was just going really well. And I will have you know, I did not rate a single book out of those 11 below a 4-star. Are you kidding me? That is so good. I forgot to check the average rating for this month, but I will put it on the screen because that is insane. I had such a good reading month. We're gonna go in chronological order as I read the books, and I'll just mention which ones I picked for that TBR video. First book that I finished in January, I actually finished on January 1st, and that is Losers Part 1 by Harley Laroux. We're talking about The Loser's Duet by Harley Laroux, and there's like a prequel little novella called The Dare, and I read that like on New Year's, and then immediately started the first book, got halfway through, and I honestly could have just finished it in 2023, but I was like, you know what, let's not rush it, just leave it for tomorrow. So I finished it right the next day, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Dude, I started this series thinking that I wasn't really gonna like it, but I wanted to read it because I was interested in it, and also because Larry from Larry Reads on YouTube and TikTok, love her, by the way, raves about it. And I trust her with my life, so I was like, yeah, I should read it. Thank God that I did. I'm not a fan of bully romances. However, this one I think was done really well. There were a lot of talks about mental health in this book that I didn't realize was gonna happen, and that took me by surprise, but it was a really pleasant surprise. And a lot of these books, I think just in general by Harley Laroux, but definitely The Loser's Duet, people always say like, oh my god, they're so smutty, and they are. The first book in particular, this one, is really smutty, but right at the end it kind of starts getting more into the characters. And it kind of gives more depth to the characters and their mental health and where they started off, and you kind of get to know the characters, and that's really what I fell in love with. If you're wondering which guy's my favorite, it's Manson and Lucas. Love them. But I also love every other guy in the book, and also Jess. Like, their love story is just so cute. This first one, though, is definitely really, really smutty. So if you're not into that, don't pick this series up. Like, it's not going to be for you. Afterwards, I picked up, just on a whim, literally out of nowhere, The Little Prince by Antoine no. The Little Prince. It's a classic. You've probably heard about it. I don't need to pronounce the author's name, but I read this. My friend adores this book. She gave it 5 stars, and I also really like it. I gave it 4.25 stars. I just think I was expecting something else. Also, I felt just the tiniest bit dumb because I wasn't understanding the point of the book, and then it all made sense in the end, and then I was crying, and it was all good in the world. I was just scared for a second because I was like, this is a children's book, and I'm not grasping the concept. I was fine. I grasped it at the end. We're all good. However, I'm really happy that I own this because throughout the book, there's like drawings in it because it is a children's book, and it's so cute. I think I said I gave this 4.25 stars. I gave it 4 stars. And then because I read Losers Part 1, I read Losers Part 2 by Harley Laroux, and I gave this one 4.75 stars. The first one definitely focuses more on like the smutty side of things, and the second one focuses more on the characters and backstories and really developing the characters, and I really loved that. I thought that was like an amazing concept for like a duology. And I can't, like, right at the top of my head right now, I cannot tell you one thing that I really enjoyed about these books besides the fact that I got so attached to the characters. They felt so real to me. They had really real problems, and a lot of mental health talks that I did not expect from like a book series like this that's advertised as being like really smutty, and it is, but it also has so much depth, and I feel like people don't talk about it often. So if the smut doesn't bother you, or if you really like reading smut, this series is really good for you, I feel like. Because it does have that smutty element, but it also has so much depth. I felt like her writing was really well done. Like, it was really easy to read, but it still had some really good quotes. Like, keep chasing the next sunrise gagged me. It was so good. I loved everything about this series. I'm so happy that I read it, and I was this close to buying the books. I didn't. I bought other books instead, but I was really close to buying them. And honestly, who's to say that I won't buy them in the future? Because these books have a lot of reread like potential. So I don't know. I might be purchasing them. I don't know. And then this is the first book from that TBR video that I read, and that is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I really liked this book. The world was so immersive to me, and it was so fun. The characters were really funny, and I don't know what Rick Riordan put in this book, but it's so easy and addicting to read. And I loved Percy. Like, Percy was my son by like page 5. I was adopting that child. I didn't care. I was like, that is my son now, and I will protect him with my life. However, it did drag for a bit at one point. I don't remember exactly where. I think it was kind of like in the middle. It didn't bother me that much. I just wanted to mention it. And I gave this 4.25 stars. You can tell when you're reading this book that it's middle grade, because it's written to be a middle grade book, and that's fine. There's no complaints about that. If you're advertising something as middle grade, it better be middle grade. And I'm not mad about that. I just noticed it because I've never really read middle grade before, like as an adult. So this was a really fun experience, and you will see that I later on continued this series, but we're going to talk about that later. So remember how I said the ratings are really good for this month? And we really started off the year strong. I forgot to mention there were 2 DNFs also of the year, and it happened in January. Listen, this next book is also part of that TBR video, and it's Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I know, listen. I have a lot of beef with this book. I DNF'd it at 30%. Right there. I don't know if you can see the tab. I will tell you exactly what page I DNF'd it on as well. I DNF'd it on page 119, chapter 13. That's where I DNF'd it. I was listening to the audiobook while I was following along in the book, and I still couldn't do it. I'm so sorry. I wanted to love this series so much, and I was so excited to read it, and it let me down. And I honestly, for this year, I don't have time to be reading books that I don't like. So I straight up DNF'd this. Do you know what made me angry? Listen, I know my friend's watching this video, and she really likes this series, so I would like to kindly ask her to, like, just cover your ears for a second while I talk about this, just so I don't hurt your feelings. So sorry. Love you. I could not stand Scarlet. Scarlet's the main character in this book. Could not stand her. Oh, this bitch, out this whole entire, like, 120 pages that I read of this book, the whole time, I was like, girl, get up off the floor. Because tell me why she's obsessed with this man that's gonna be her fiance. She's never met him, never even, like, heard his voice, because all they've been doing is talking through letters. And she's like, oh my god, he loves me. Oh my god, he's such a gentleman. You can tell from, like, his letters that he's such, like, a good man. That's literally in this book. I'm not making this shit up. Firstly, her dad is abusive towards her and her sister, and that man that she's supposed to marry made a deal with her dad, and she's still trusting him. Why are you trusting someone that makes a deal with your dad in the first place? Second of all, you've never met the guy, and you're like, oh my god, he loves me. Be fucking for real. I didn't even like her sister. I thought that Scarlet and, what's his name, Jordan? Is his name Jordan? I forgot his name. Whatever. The guy in this book, they had no chemistry to me. I'm so sorry. Like, they had, like, a couple of scenes on, like, a boat or whatever, and then in the snow or something. And then suddenly they were supposed to have, like, chemistry, and then she was like, oh, but he came with me. And I'm like, but you didn't bond at all, though, so where are these feelings coming from? And Scarlet, like, the amount of times people told Scarlet, don't do this. Or, like, warned her about something or explained something, and then the whole time she's like, no, you're wrong. What do you mean? What do you mean you're wrong? As if you know better than them. Please. Oh my god, I'm getting so heated. I need to stop talking about this book. I hated Scarlet. I cannot stand Scarlet. I will not be continuing this series. And I don't think I'll ever read anything else from Stephanie Garber. So sorry. Will not be reading the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Is that it? The really pretty pink ones? Cannot do it to myself. I DNF'd it. While I was reading all of those books, I was listening to the audiobook of A Court of Silver Flames. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I was listening to the Graphic Audio's audiobook. That's really good, by the way. It has, like, a different voice actor for every character, and it's really good, and it has, like, sound effects. It's basically, like, a movie in your ears, and it was really good. I started my reread of ACOTAR through the Graphic Audio's audiobooks in 2023, and this was the only one that was left for me to listen to, so I just finished that in January. I still gave it 5 stars. I absolutely adore this book, and it only solidified the fact that I would do anything for Nesta, and I will protect her with my life. And I have a whole discussion video on ACOTAR if you want to check that out and see, like, my thoughts more in depth about this particular book or any of the other ACOTAR books. I adored this. And then next book from that TBR video is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Oh my god. I knew I was gonna like this book because it's Ali Hazelwood. However, I didn't think that I was gonna adore it. I gave this 5 stars. Easily 5 stars. Oh my god. Do you know how fun this book was? I could have read this book in one sitting if only I had started reading it earlier in the day. I started reading it at 7 p.m. and then I got tired, so I couldn't read it in one sitting. I had to, like, finish it the next day. Totally would have done it in one day, which is what happened with The Love Hypothesis as well. The way that Jack could read Elsie and everything that she was feeling and she was doing blew me away. Like, I love that trope. Is it even a trope? I love that aspect of romance books. And this just did me in. This is so fun because it's like a trope that we already know, which is fake dating, which is a really good trope in, like, any romance book in my opinion. But it's a twist on it because she's fake dating his brother. So I said there were 2 DNFs, and this is the second one, and this is unfortunately, again, one of the books that I picked off of my physical TBR from January, from that TBR video, and that is The Roommate by Rosie Danan. I DNF'd this at 37%. I can't tell you what page that is. I couldn't do it. Listen, I picked this book for a prompt that was like a book you think you'll love. No one's more disappointed that I didn't love this book than me. The premise of this book is so good, and then the characters feel like cardboard, and I didn't like the writing. There's one quote that I really like from, like, what I read of this book, and I will read it out to you. Every body is different, but none of them are wrong. That really stuck with me. So this book had a lot of potential, and I feel like a lot of people out there would like this book. And it had everything in it that would make me like it, and I didn't because I don't like the characters, and I was just really bored reading this book. And I'm so sad about it, and there's nothing else I can tell you because there's not inherently something wrong with it. I just didn't vibe with it, and I didn't like the characters, and I felt like they needed more developing. I don't know. Also, the guy, Josh, kind of gave me the ick in the beginning. I think, like, in chapter 2, I had the ick, and I couldn't get past it. You should give it a try if you're interested in it, and if you think you're gonna like it. However, I personally didn't enjoy it, and I DNF'd it because life is too short for me to be reading books I don't like. DNF'd at 37%. And then I obviously wanted to finish the TBR that I picked for January, so I read Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. I'm gonna let you look at the tabs. Yeah, I love this book. I gave this 4.75 stars. This book took me by storm because, listen to me, I had cried like 3 times in the first 2 chapters of this book. 2 chapters. This book has short chapters. And it made me cry like 3 or 4 times, and then I continued crying throughout the whole book. This is a Vikings-inspired, like, standalone fantasy, and it's young adult, and it has romance, but it's slow burn. I did not expect this to be such a heartwarming read, such, like, a deep read, because it had so much good commentary about forgiveness and grief. And I was not expecting that. And I feel like no one talks about this book, and they should. Because not only is it like a young adult fantasy that anyone could read because it's young adult, it's also a standalone fantasy. There is a second book that's not really like connected to this one. You don't need to read it. I did put it on my TBR, but honestly, I'd be so happy just reading this book, and then that would be it. The writing in this is, I think, what captured me right at the beginning, and then I fell in love with the characters. The only reason why I didn't give this 5 stars is because while I did love the romance, some little thing about it was missing to me, and I can't tell you what it is. It was just a feeling. I feel like this is the book that I recommend the most out of this pile, even though I didn't give it 5 stars, because no one ever talks about this. Like, so rarely I see people talk about this book, and that's such a shame because it's so good. And then continuing the Percy Jackson series, I decided to pick up The Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. This is the second book. I listened to this on audiobook, and I honestly thought I'd like it a bit more. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I gave it 4 stars. However, I think the beginning of it was kind of slow, and I wasn't really getting into it. That also might have been my fault because I was only listening to the audiobook while I was playing The Sims. I wasn't following along in the book. However, it got really good near the end, so I don't think that's the problem. I think it was just the book. So it's kind of slow in the beginning, and then at the end it gets really good, and the plot twist at the end of this book. I would honestly die for Tyson. That is a character that shows up in this book. Die for him. Would die for him. And the next book that I read was Mile High by Liz Tomford. Listen to me. I knew I was gonna like this book because it had everything in it that would make me like it. And I started reading it physically. As you can see, there's like a bunch of tabs, or maybe you can't see. It doesn't matter. There's a bunch of tabs in here, so I did start reading it physically, and then continued on with the audiobook, and it was really good. Like, the audiobook narration was really good. Like, it was dual narrated because it's dual POV in the book. I really enjoyed this. I give it 4.75 stars. The only reason why it's not 4 stars is because while I really liked the characters, I didn't get that attached to them. However, the talks about body image that Stevie was having with Xander's and that whole thing, it just made me relate to Stevie so much. And I genuinely feel like this book has like a special place in my heart just for those like talks that need to be had in books, because Stevie is a plus-sized heroine, and while she is confident and fierce, she has her insecurities. Because that's just what happens when you live in such a toxic society. And I really related to her with some aspects, and I just really enjoyed reading this book. The writing was beautiful. The characters were really good. Xander's kind of annoyed me in the beginning, and then he did something for his niece, and I was on the floor. I was like, never mind. I actually am in love with this man. And then I read my most anticipated release of January. Well, one of them, and that is Nobody Like Us by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. It came out January 26th, and I read it like 2 days ago. I finished it in 2 days. Listen, the book is not small. The book is 890 pages, and I finished it in 2 days. That book is the end of my favorite series of all time, and that is the Like Us series by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. That's the first book, and then the other 2 over there. There are 13 books in the series. Nobody Like Us is the 13th book, and the series is over. And I cannot explain to you how I'm feeling, because that book made me get into Kristen Becker-Ritchie. I read the Like Us series first, and then I went ahead and read, like, Addicted Calloway. And those characters mean so much to me, and I was so excited to read this book, and it didn't disappoint me at all. I gave it 4.75 stars. I didn't give it 5 stars, which I actually anticipated that I would. The only reason why it's not 5 stars is because I felt like we still have some loose ends, and it's like the end of a series. And then I remembered that they said they were writing like the Cobalt Brothers series, which is gonna connect to this one. I don't think like very directly, but it is like connected to it. And then it all made sense because, of course, they're preparing for the other series as well. They're not gonna like finish everything off and then leave like no room to write another series. So I understand completely. Really liked Lo's development actually in this book. And the romance in it was just really good, and I liked the way that it wrapped up. And it had a lot of cameos of a character that I really love, and that is Charlie Cobalt. So this just book made me really happy. Okay, I cannot fathom the fact that the series is over. And then the last book, actually the book that I finished today, is an audiobook that I was listening to, and that is Start a War by Ellie Thorpe. It is the first book in the St. View's Psychos series, I think. I read the first and second book last year and then never read the third one, even though I really enjoyed the first two. So in order to finish the series, I wanted to remind myself of the first two books, and I'm going to listen to them on audiobook. And I listened to the first one, and the first time that I read this book, I gave it 4.75 stars. It's not a 4.75 star now, I will tell you that much, which really shocked me and threw me for a loop, because now I'm like, do I even want to like continue the series? Because I gave it 4.25 stars now that I read it, which is not a bad rating. I just, I went back and read my review in my reading journal of this book, and I felt none of the feelings that I felt when I first read it. And that's not because it's a reread, and not at all, because I didn't actually remember like basically anything about this book. That's why I was rereading it and not just reminding myself of what happened. So I'm really like, do I even want to continue the series? I don't even know how to explain to you the series. It's like a Why Choose dark romance. It's smutty, it's dark. It involves a motorcycle gang. It involves a sex club, and it's Why Choose, and then it has a bunch of trigger warnings, so definitely look those up, and it has DID in it. And I think now that I've listened to the first book and reread it, I'm like, is the DID representation even good in that book? Because I don't think it is, so it's kind of making me feel uncomfortable continuing it. Like, the series, I don't know. I'll get back to you on if I'm gonna continue that or not, but that is what I finished today, like right before I started filming this video. And those are the 11 books that I read in January, and the 2 that I DNF'd. So that was a really good reading month for me. I hope you had an amazing reading month. I hope you're not in reading slumps, and if you are, I'm hoping that you will get out of it, okay? I'm manifesting, I'm sending good vibes your way. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you would like, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.